To quote Ray Davies of the Kinks in the song Lola, "I'm not the world's most masculine man, but watching the Rings of Power, even I've had to shake my head in wonderment that such a pitiful assemblage of beta males, such a parade of tedious, emasculated assholes could be brought to bear for our supposed entertainment." Number 1. Waveringly loyal, complaining elf guy, who exists to reinforce the indefatigable determination, courage, and vision of Galadriel, and to tee up weak suggestions for Galadriel to then knock down with intuition, fortitude, and moral courage. Even though the elves are a mysterious and ethereal and beautiful race, this particular specimen looks bizarrely like he was involved in a high-speed car crash and in the collision suffered hideous disfigurements, so that when he was extracted from the smoking wreckage, it necessitated months of protracted facial reconstructive surgery and insertions of facial metal plates, as well as cosmetic alterations. Number 2. Weedy, hunched-over, and skulking ignorant guy at inn. Despite being a hardened laborer, he looks like he has been subsisting on a vegan diet and vaping between meals to suppress his appetite, leaving him scrawny and bony and with comically lanky hair like a 14-year-old, but with the long-harbored subliminally racist resentments of a much older man. He functions to bring to light the patience, resolve, benevolent disposition, but also no-nonsense attitude of awesomely virtuous, resourceful, and morally perfect Diversity Elf Guy, and to further emphasize the physical prowess of Diversity Elf Guy by lamely provoking a fight, which Diversity Elf Guy is able to quell with his subdued, wise, inherent awesomeness. Number 3. Flat yet frizzy-fringed Numenorian beta male guy who, in real life, would of course not have the faintest chance in hell of actually successfully flirting with a girl of this league, on account of him being wimpy-looking, wimpy-acting, having the physique of Steve Rogers before he became Captain America, being cringeworthily mild and generally kind of pussy-ish, self-conscious and dominated by his father, and not really having any particular role or position or esteem from others, and giving off an intensely strong vibe as the guy at a party flirting with someone you'd like to flirt with, and being easily dispatched and supplanted socially and brushed aside, probably with gratitude from the girl herself. Number 4. Isildur, who, though inevitably developing into a character of consequence, is, in this show, a daydreaming, sensitive, problematic, and wishy-washy young man whose absent-mindedness and easy succumbing to distant voices imperils his fellow crew, the ship he is sailing, and condemns his best friends to career oblivion. A frustration to his father, overshadowed by the prim, charisma-less moral certitude and awesomeness of his made-up sister, he is a shiftless, fey, protracted pain in the ass for 90% of his screen time. And if it weren't for his part to play later, we would be quite happy to see him pitched overboard to swim with the fishes, or be knocked into a vegetative state by a swinging boom. Number 5. This is tied equally among these guards, who, apparently not trained, disciplined, and vigilant enough, are taken by surprise by a weaponless 5'6" female with no armor or weapons, who, in a matter of moments, and with their cooperation apparently to defy physics, as well as the cooperation of the show's editors to chop the scene up into microshots to obscure the implausibility and farcicality of the fray, is able to bundle them into a cell like a teacher ushering goggle-eyed and obedient children onto a bus for a field trip, in one of the daftest and most exasperatingly indulgent girl boss fantasy moments ever captured on screen. Number 6. Another tie with these Numenorian young men, made up of members of a boy band from the 90s and a boy band from the 70s, with feathery, curly, or ringleted hair and all the masculinity of a palace's whole intake of harem-guarding eunuchs. It were if the showrunners had instructed the casting, costume, and makeup departments to divest them of any male characteristics or virility, and do their level best to arrange and present them as 6-foot-tall pubescents. Number 7. Isildur's friend, dorky, slightly overweight, chubby-cheeked, and dismally annoying, vaguely comic relief friend, who lets events overtake him without much fuss or indignation or assertion, or really any personality at all, evoking the kid in most people's school life who would tag along on the fringes of your social circle, but was never quite cool enough to unveil themselves fully, and would eventually be shut out on the grounds their benign good nature was outweighed by their annoying docility and uncoolness, which would hamper the wider social group's overall prospects with girls. Useless in a fight, he is one of 4 or 5 youngsters hopelessly outmatched in the definitively worst indulgent girl boss scene ever captured on screen, in which Galadriel conceitedly ducks and swerves and makes light of the men around her. Number 8. Elrond, depicted with masterful gravitas and style and charisma in the original trilogy, is here an effete shampoo commercial beta elf who lives in a decadent and soft existence at the outset, and whose travails into the dwarf realm are tedious and full of revelations those around him knew of ahead of time, and whose courtesy and deference are grating, and who, having seen his fair share, has of course not seen what Galadriel has seen. Number 9. Tied, between showrunners Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne, a pair of scarf-wearing, identity politics-driven, Tolkien literary carcass-picking, lamentable softies, whose creation, The Rings of Power, has indulged every worst impulse of its writers and casting agents to force-feed real-world perceptions and social mores into a world where they're incongruous, and have overseen the production and botched release of one of the most divisive products in entertainment. Well done, gentlemen. As a man, you made the experience of watching this tripe a toe-curling and frustrating one, where practically all the male characters are dominated, buffoonish, secondary to promoted representation, and generally suck balls, as some sort of misdirected compensation for them evidently having none of their own. Number 10.